Hey guys, Kyle here. So, just before the show starts, I wanted to mention our Patreon. You can pay us $1 a month as a thank you, as a tip. You can pay $2 a month to get access to one of our bonus content shows, episodes 2 days early, and a secret Discord chat where all of our Patreon donors get to go and hang out and talk with us directly. Then there's a $5 tier that you can donate to get access to a whole bunch more content. We have multiple bonus episodes on there, so please check it out. Patreon.com/itgetsweird. We don't advertise, we don't make money, so check it out and throw some money if you think that would be cool. Thanks. Welcome to It Gets Weird, our comedy show where we explore the unusual, the unbelievable, and the unexplained to try and make your world a little weirder. I'm Kyle.
And I'm Niall. And this week, I've got some incense going. I tried to light the mood a little bit here and kind of make it a chill atmosphere where I'm open to new ideas and concepts. And because I think what I'm going to do this week is set out to try to just believe in whatever you're going to tell me.
Okay.
I think that a lot of weeks we come in it from kind of a skeptic's or at least a somewhat skeptical point of view on certain things and everything. And I think honestly, this week, if my luck is bad, I'll just become a flat earther. I don't know what you're doing this week.
Could be.
Yeah. But I think that's the goal this week, is to come in with an open mind and be
just
changed.
Become whatever I lay in front of you. Well, that sucks that I chose something I think is just not even going to be shaking any foundations for you whatsoever. This is pretty typical stuff. So that is an unfortunate anti-synergy. It is what it is, Niall. It happens. Sometimes...
Look, we roll the dice.
No, I've got the vibes over here pretty nice too. I have been drinking pink apple and lemon seltzers, premium seltzers all day.
Polar, if you want to sponsor the podcast and ship us some cases of that shit.
Yeah.
And I like other flavors too. I have yet to find a polar seltzer flavor that I don't find both refreshing and quenching.
Yeah, look, I like other flavors too, but Polar, if you're listening, one, I would take the sponsorship. This is one of the few spots where I think we would kind of drop our whole punk shtick about no advertising. I would do it for Polar money, but honestly...
Mr. Sex Pistol himself did that butter ad. Punk still sells out regularly.
I guess that's true. Well, I would take some cases of the pink apple and lemon, because this is not close my favorite flavor. I also have a candle over there that I don't... It's like mahogany or some bullshit. It's kind of nice.
Sure.
So I've been smelling that, drinking my naturally calorie-free Polar all day, and listening to some audio of hypnotic regression sessions, Niall. Does that sound kind of interesting to you? Do you like that sort of thing?
Look, I think that I think I'm into it. I've really been chasing the dragon music-wise lately, where I'm trying a lot of new things. I'm listening to a lot of new stuff and I have yet to go down the hypnotic regression session tapes rabbit hole, and maybe that's the direction for me going forward.
That's honestly a great point, because I've sat and listened to ambient and tape field recordings and things, and there's an acoustic. There is a level to which I enjoy these fucked up tapes of people reliving a UFO abduction or being possessed by Pazuzu or whatever.
It fits in the broad category of field recordings,
Yeah, and I will say it is sort of. I think I've said this on the show before, how ASMR is not a thing that works on me, but music will cause tingles for me, which I think is what the ASMR thing is, right? But old recordings like this, for whatever reason, really do genuinely, they're just something I can just sit and listen to, because it scratches an itch in my brain.
I do love...
It's hard to describe.
I have a similar thing in a way. I think, where like, I meant to. What's funny is I just remembered. I was gonna do a similar, sponsored beverage posting but I forgot to get the drink when, I thought about this like 3 or 4 days ago. I have the new Mountain Dew Dirty Dew.
What the fuck are you talking about? I don't know
anything
about the Dirty Dew?
This.
No.
Oh shit. Okay. Well, Dirty
is it like
Dew
alcoholic? Oh, they already
No.
did that. They already did
No,
that, didn't they?
no, but I have had that too, and it's okay. It's weird, but it's okay. This is a cream soda Mountain Dew.
Oh, okay, so they're not putting like olives in Mountain Dew.
No, dirty. Okay, so dirty soda is this? Do I have to start from? Are you a baby?
I mean,
in this shit?
Jesus. I mean, my assumption was it's sort of like Beverly. Or like a martini where you put nasty olive juice in it or whatever.
God, it's been a while since I've derailed the whole podcast talking about like a trend in beverages. Harken back to the days where I talked for far too long about water talk and shit. So dirty soda is a trend that began in, I believe, the Mormon community.
What?
Wherein because they don't partake in a lot of the stimulant type drinks,
sure.
They started to do stuff where they would alter sodas. And there are these like drive-through places that will do these combinations. And the idea of putting like coconut creamer or coffee creamer into soda became known as dirty. So like it started with like dirty Dr. Pepper, I think, which is actually, it's not bad. It's like a lot, it's really,
sounds like
it makes
a lot.
it very, but it's not bad. And so that has gotten popular enough to the point where now Coffee Mate has a dirty soda Coffee Mate that they released, where they just have like coffee creamer specifically for dirty sodas, because usually like a dirty Dr. Pepper I think was like Dr. Pepper, coffee creamer, or like coconut creamer, and then like a squirt of lime, because like a lot of these drive-through places would have like cherries and limes and lemons and stuff that you could like add as a thing to your drink. Anyway,
I'm learning a lot right now.
Now like places like Starbucks and literally there was they have a dirty soda thing at Dunkin' Donuts right now.
Wow. Okay.
Where they literally have like it's like coffee milk put into like Dr. Pepper or some shit. It's I didn't try it. But yeah, so Dirty Dew is an officially released product by Mountain Dew that is Mountain Dew
for
cream
Mormons.
soda.
Okay.
And it's actually it's very weird for the first like third of a can.
So
you don't fully it doesn't make sense, and then it starts to click, and it's actually pretty good.
Is the idea here that this would be Mountain Dew without caffeine?
No, it has caffeine.
Wait, I thought
there is
Mormons...
a caffeine-free thing. Now, Mormons tend to do this with caffeine-free, but to the larger palate of America, there's a lot of times both full caffeine and no caffeine versions for, much like soda. So like there's probably a diet Dirty Dew as well, like caffeine-free Dirty Dew as well. I don't know.
Oh, shit. Okay, this is all.
So anyway,
I'm hearing about this for the first time.
This is all me describing a thing that I forgot to actually grab before I started this podcast. But you brought up your beverage, and I figured I'd at least act like that was what I was doing.
I'm gonna be super honest with you. None of that sounds good to me. I would try it. I would try a sip of it. But none of it sounds very good to me.
So I interrupted something to talk about Dirty Dew. What were we audio recordings of hypnosis regressions and stuff.
It's fine. It turns out Mountain Dew features very heavily in this story, so there is some synergy there.
Oh, I was gonna say I have the thing where like I love when games have like crackly old audio logs.
Oh, sure.
I love that kind of listening to like
yeah.
old recording
Metal Gear.
stuff, both in yeah. I like that kind of stuff. I'm with you.
Oh yeah, I'm with you as well. I should circle back and say the thing about Mountain Dew that I said was a complete lie. That's not true.
What did you say about Mountain Dew? That was a complete lie.
I said it factors heavily into this story, and that was synergistic. And I just made that up because I don't know. I was scared and felt like I had to had to tie it into your thing. It's not true.
At some point, you started to think about segues way more than you used to, and now it factors more into the tone of this show than it used to.
Yeah, it's sort of irrelevant.
Yeah.
To try and like actually segue, because like, you know, we're just gonna bullshit anyway, and that's the fun of it. So look, I encourage further bullshitting regardless of my brain trying to tie Mountain Dew into the story. It's not true. It has nothing to do with this story, as I did not find any evidence of Mountain Dew in this story. I'm sorry.
But if it helps you, you can imagine the people who are conducting the hypnotic regressions off screen are just like drinking a Mountain Dew.
Actually,
like, right off, you know, on the table next to the tape recorder is a frosty Mountain Dew.
I do highly encourage everybody to imagine every character in this story with a frosty glass of Mountain Dew, and they're sipping it in between the things that are happening and the things that are being said. I do encourage that. Niall,
it adds a lot to the story.
And Niall, I just want to say for the listener at home, you did just have an incense smoke wisp go across your screen like as if you were capturing a specter on your webcam. I just want to point that out. That was very fun for me too.
Have you seen my incense frog?
Oh, that's really good. I do really like that. I have not seen the incense frog yet, but there is a little frog in a bowl holding the incense stick. So I highly enjoy that. I gotta get like an alien themed incense holder or something.
I want to get a cone incense thing, and a lot of those like have like cool. There's a lot of cool holders for them. Where you can make like, you know, an animal that's smoking, or like or it turns it into like a waterfall, or etc. But I would love to find like a UFO cone incense holder.
Same. Also, you know, sit there, imagine your favorite animal. Now imagine it chuffing a fat dart. It instantly gets way cooler. No, I would love to have like a little gray or something, and maybe it says like, take me to your dealer or something, which I guess that's a little strange since it's incense and not weed, but I guess incense has the association of covering up the smell of weed.
You know, it's behind the counter at your local head shop. Sure.
Yeah, exactly. Well, Niall, speaking of aliens and all the UFOs and stuff, this week we're going to go back to the 1970s for a classic UFO abduction case. Just when I was certain that we'd talked about every classic UFO abduction case, bam, this one pops up, throws it in my face. And I gotta tell you, I'm like reading what makes this one so good. I was like doing the fucking, oh my God, who's the guy who was in Spy Kids as their dad?
Antonio Banderas.
Antonio Banderas. I was doing, you know, the gif of Antonio Banderas, which is
himself.
From a movie I don't think I've seen, where he like leans back and puts like his fist up against his mouth. And he's like, "Ooh, yeah, that's good."
Is that Swordfish?
It might be from Swordfish, which is a movie I reference all the time and have never seen in my life.
I've seen about 20 minutes of it on TV one time.
Well, I was doing that motion reading a lot of this story because the story it's got a lot of the classic tropes, if you will, of UFO stuff, very, very by the books, but it spirals out into extremely weird and interesting details outside of the main UFO event, and when, you know, we get into hypnotic regression and all that stuff. So I was just like, licking my chops. This is such a great story. Very interesting stuff.
Okay.
So, Niall, this is the story of the Stanford abductions. It's
not the Stanford prison experience or experiment. The Stanford Prison Experience is my favorite jazz fusion band.
Yeah, the Stanford Prison Experience is a new attraction that they're going to be bringing to Epcot, where you can kind of just like go through the whole thing yourself.
You have like... I'm just imagining Goofy over the mic, like, you know, like casting the fucking Disney characters into the Stanford Prison Experiment.
No, this is this is less a Stanford Prison Experiment sort of thing, more of a Stepford Wives sort of thing. That's also not true. This is its own thing. I lied on that one too. Stanford,
you're just going
Stepford,
free associating
a little bit. Now, I want to kick this one off by giving a big shout out. I don't know if I've mentioned this guy in the past, but I've almost definitely pulled sources for episodes from this guy because what he does is he compiles like archival material on UFO stories. So this is a Mr. Jeff Knox, Knox on Blue Sky is where I follow him. But it's lots of archival material on UFO cases, articles and clips and things being shared about these cases. And I pulled from a lot of different sources, but Jeff Knox also compiled some really, really interesting sources on this case in particular. So if you are interested in UFOs and the history of UFOs, check out Jeff Knox on Blue Sky. Really, really great resource.
All right.
So this is one of those stories that takes place during a time where I love the 60s and 70s. We've established this for UFO stuff, but it's this time where street level UFO investigation is arguably at its sweatiest. It just people are really into it, and UFO stuff. The subject is popular enough in the popular culture that a story like this could make, national, if not international news. So I've got sources ranging between, nerdy little UFO groups reporting to, Kentucky-based news channels to the National Enquirer. Okay. So it runs the gamut.
So far, not a big stretch to believe. I'm doing great on my goal.
No, I think we're gonna keep. I think you're going to stay firmly in the realm of belief with this one. I will say it is also one of those UFO stories, and you'll understand this by the time we're done, where I don't know what to make of every detail at the end of the day.
Okay.
Some of this I'm just kind of having to throw my hands up and say that's really weird and I don't know what to say about it. And I love those stories.
Well, I think there's something to that where like we don't come into these stories going how can we debunk this, how can I make, but like a lot of things are pretty explainable that you come across. So when you find something that you're like, I don't really know what to make about that, there's still a thrill in it.
Yeah, 100%. And there's a lot of strange stuff in this one. So, two of the other resources that I got that were also compiled to point me in a direction by Jeff Knox. That is the book Flying Saucers, Magic in the Skies, A Psychohistory by Otto Billig, who was a psychiatrist, died in like 1989. He was like, I want to say a professor at Vanderbilt University. Interesting character. Wrote this book on UFOs and psychology, and he specialized specifically in the intersection. This is what I surmised. He specialized in the intersection of art and schizophrenia. That was just a thing that he was interested in, I guess, and researched. But then we also have the UFO Encyclopedia by Jerome Clark, which I was really dismayed to discover that the third edition, which I think is the most updated edition, is like $250. Good luck getting a physical copy of this. So I had to go and find a borrowable PDF from the Internet Archive. Like many UFO abduction cases we've discussed before, this story has at its core this popular and sensationalized story, but the more you follow the UFO investigation and the stuff that spun out from it, you know how like you'll go and you'll read a story that it's like a really popular website for stories about UFOs or whatever, and you'll read it and you'll go, there's just no chance this is the whole story. And then you start digging into other places and other people and other outlets talking about the stuff, and your suspicions are confirmed. It's like, yeah, there's so much more going on here. This is one of those stories where you will find an article that's just like, this is the encounter with the UFO, and this is kind of like who the people are that are involved, and here's what the regressive hypnosis uncovered, and that's what they tell you, and it's like, no, there's more details to this. So I don't want to start this off overcomplicated. So let's begin with the sort of main story that you'll find, the one that newspapers and whatnot would have heard kind of at the start.
Okay.
So it all began on January 6th, 1976, on the 36th birthday of one of our main characters. This is Liberty, Kentucky resident Mona Stafford. I mentioned this in my notes somewhere, but the more you read about this story and the coverage and the investigation, the more it feels like Mona Stafford is a little bit of a main character, even though there's 3 women involved in the encounter. I can't tell whether this is the result of Mona putting herself in that position, or
Sure.
whether that she just sort of fell into that by way of interviews and discussion and how it's reported. But this is the sense I got. So the story begins with Mona deciding to go out with her 2 gal pals, Mary Louise Smith and Elaine Thomas. So these 3 get together. I'm also going to just say this now. This is how the story gets presented to you. There is a lot more weirdness with all the stuff that's happening here, like them getting together to go to eat dinner, that doesn't get covered in a lot of places and only comes out of like interviews later.
Okay.
And I find that very interesting. So Mona, Mary, and Elaine, they all get together. They're the 3 besties, the 3 girlies. They're like, let's go get dinner at a place called Redwood's Restaurant. This is about 35 miles away from the hometown, just south of Lancaster. Around 11:15 p.m., the 3 are there. It's Mona's birthday, and so they're having this birthday dinner, and they finish at 11:15 p.m., finish their dinner, hop into Mary Louise's 67 Chevy Nova, and they hit the road. Okay. Seems normal so far. A little late for dinner, but it's a birthday bash. What you gonna do?
Yeah, it's a celebration.
Now let's establish some vibes here, because they're honestly amazing. I love every little detail about this story. Not every detail, but this part I love. It's late at night when they leave the restaurant, and in one of the articles I read, they include this detail where they're like, as they left, they drove past a local cemetery, and then they drove past a local drive-in theater, and as they go past the drive-in theater, they begin to enter countryside. Immaculate. I'm licking the flavors off of my fingers as I read this story. Because they're about to encounter a UFO. Just by establishing those set pieces.
Yep.
So yeah, immaculate UFO abduction scenario for me. They're driving near Stanford, Kentucky, about 9 miles from Lancaster, when they turned off Highway 27 and onto Highway 78. So they're just outside of Stanford when they see it. A big, bright red object flying in the sky. Initially, it was mistaken as an airplane on fire. That's what they thought it was.
Airplane on fire. Okay.
An airplane on fire, like possibly crashing.
Sure. Okay. That would be fucking scary to just come upon, like, turn onto the highway and you just see a fucking flaming airplane coming at you.
Well, Niall, we can sort of relate to the experience of seeing something on fire falling out of the sky, and it is incredibly scary in the first moment. The green fireball. I was on the rooftop with you, right? Am I remembering that? Oh, it was Garrett?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm so sorry. I don't know why. I just assume you're both in my UFO experiences.
Yeah.
I'm sure I told this on the show before, but there was one night where I was up. It was probably like 9 or 10 p.m. I was on the roof of a parking garage with Garrett, and we all flipped the fuck out because we saw an enormous green fireball just plummeting out of the sky and like somewhere in the town nearby. Now there is a very simple non-UFO explanation there, but it does get thrown into UFO lore, I guess.
Green fireballs are part of the UFO lore.
So when for a split moment, it was genuine fear when I saw that. Because it's just a giant fireball in the sky. So I imagine that's a similar experience of like, I think a plane is about to just hit the ground and explode because that is an airplane on fire. That's what they think. So as the object descended, it eventually stops, and it's over 100 feet away from them, possibly hundreds of feet away from them. What's funny is I saw one account where it was like, it's 100 yards away. I was like, okay. Then there's another account where it says it's 100 feet away. And then there's another account that says it's a couple 100 feet away from them.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, so I'm going to go ahead and split the difference. I'm going to assume this thing is like 200 feet away from them, maybe.
Sure. It's a ways away.
150?
Very, very within sight lines.
Yes. So it stops that distance from them, and they get a better look at it. And this craft is described as being huge. One of them describes it as being about the size of a football field. Another one says that it's bigger than 2 houses combined. It was disc-shaped, though some of the retellings would later describe it as blimp-like or like a football, which disc-shaped, blimp-like football, you can kind of imagine what I'm describing.
Yeah, there's a UFO, common UFO shape that could easily go either way on that one.
This is very much in the continuity of UFOs.
Sure.
So it's sort of disc-shaped. It's metallic gray in color with a glowing white dome on top. Mona would later describe the light of this dome as, quote, bluish white and more brilliant than anything I've ever seen. And I find this an interesting detail because there's another similar description of a different light later from a different woman.
Okay.
Along the midsection of the craft was a series of red lights that, sort of rotated around the object. Mm-hmm. Underneath the object were 3 or 4 red and yellow lights that, quote, burned steadily. The object rocked back and forth a few times ahead of the 3 women, and then it began to move off to the left. Mm-hmm. So they're still driving as they see this, and they keep driving past the object, thinking for a moment, based on the lights, that maybe it's a patrol car with its flashing lights on. Now, this is another... It's such a creepy, eerie thing to picture, because soon after they pass it, a blue light then shines in through the back window of their Nova. And they realize that whatever this thing is, it has circled around behind them and started following them, and it gets close by, and it flips over and, like, aims a beam at them.
Okay. Do you ever... Okay, this might be a leap, but with the light being a really brilliant, almost bluish, and this blue light and this beam and all this stuff, do you ever think about how early military technology had LED bulbs before the common populace?
I haven't really thought about it from that specific angle, but now that you're saying it, you are making me think about it.
It's just one of those things that, like, it came to mind, and I was like, was this person just seeing, like, because, a thing that you've seen that I'm much more aware of now than I ever was in the past of, like, the like lumen scale of, like, how, and, like, the kind of coloration of lighting, the color temperature of lighting, and how, like, a lot of the older light bulbs are this less true white. It's kind of like a warmer, duller light. But now we have these, like, fucking, those xenon bulbs that people have in their cars.
Horrible.
Where it's just like
should be illegal.
Shot in the eyes with fucking white light.
Yes.
it's like when did the military that was making these secret fucking plane prototypes have stuff like that?
You know, that's an interesting point that I hadn't considered. And Niall, I want you to keep the military in mind, because that's an element that I feel is very underplayed in this story from a lot of accounts, and it is there.
Sure.
But no, really good point. I don't know. And, like, if you do want to, like, consider that maybe these, like, high on the lumen scale, insane brights that trucks and shit have now, is that something that was unavailable to the public, but the military had it before the public? I don't know. I would be curious to know.
Did they have that shit in the 70s, and like that was the weird of these like really intense lights that people have seen in like the UFO way? You know,
it's an interesting thought.
You wonder.
Yeah, it's something that I may have to see if I can somehow look into that, because that's a good thought. So yeah, this thing has followed up behind them, sort of flipped around and shot a beam at them. And the women turned to look at the object. And this is another one of those details where I'm like, this is so fucking weird. They try to turn to look at this thing, but looking at it immediately gives them this tingling sensation and causes painful headaches. Like, it was too painful and disorienting to just look at this thing.
Okay.
Which, I know that getting shot with UFO beams can cause all kinds of stuff to happen to you. I feel like just looking at a UFO doesn't necessarily... I don't know as many cases where people are just, I'm observing a UFO and it's causing me physical pain.
Yeah. Like, a lot of times it's stuff that happens after, but then in this moment you would expect them to be frozen, not in pain.
Yeah.
Sure.
So maybe they resisted some paralyzing beam, or it's something else very weird. I'm not sure. So they turn to look at it. They've got headaches. It's painful and disorienting. And then suddenly Mary Louise realizes that her car is no longer under her control. First, the car jerks off to the left. I shouldn't have phrased it like that, but whatever. The car jerks to the left. Off did not need to be in that sentence, I guess is what I'm saying.
No,
it jerks to the left.
Look, I feel like that we have done that so many times throughout the history of this podcast that I feel like it's almost tradition at this point that at some point you just you slip in accidentally calling it jerking off about driving a car.
A lot of car jerking in this show, it turns out, during these UFO cases, which incidentally I think is the pitch for the new Cars movie that's coming out. Lots of car jerking.
Yeah, Cars 5 is jerking off in UFOs.
Yeah. So sometimes it gets glossed over a little bit, but my understanding from reading multiple different recountings of this scenario is that as the car start to lose control of the car, they all start panicking. Like the atmosphere in the car is getting more and more panicky as weird things happen. And so Mary Louise is no longer in control of the car. Mona is screaming like, slow down, stop us, or whatever. And Mary Louise is going, I cannot stop this car. It's now out of my control. Mona grabs at the steering wheel, trying to help regain control. And as they're getting more and more panicked, Elaine, who is sitting front seat passenger side, screamed that she wanted to get out of the car and, quote, see this thing. And here's a detail that I find fascinating. She not only screams that, she later talks about this and says that she describes it as feeling as, quote, as though I was with them, the other two women, yet not with them.
Okay.
So she's there with them, but somehow also not present. It's a feeling is hard to describe, I guess. So in her attempt to regain control of the car, Mary Louise lifts her foot off the gas pedal, but somehow the car is managing to hit 85 miles per hour if her speedometer is to be believed. So they have no control over this car. Her foot is off the pedal. It is going 85 miles an hour.
That's too fast.
Yeah. I thought this was also kind of funny, but it also says in one of the accounts that Mary Louise had never driven 80 that speed in any car in her life ever.
Okay.
So, describing the sensation in this moment, Mona would later recall, quote, "It felt like we were crossing those grooves they have in the road to slow you down when you're approaching a stop sign." Which at one point, I think this specific detail, at one point the car is pulled, but like backwards. The thing that I found a little confusing is whether or not they were driving 85 miles per hour forward and then it was pulled backwards, or whether it was being pulled backwards at 85 miles per hour. I think it's the second one. I think it's they are being pulled. They start to get pulled backwards and they reach 85 miles an hour. I think that's what it was, because when she's like, "Oh, it's like we were driving over those grooves, those slowdown grooves."
Yeah, the rumble.
They're being pulled backwards. Is my understanding of this account. So that's very weird. One of the accounts then also says that Mary Louise says that at this point, the car began filling with a, quote, haze-like air, sort of a fog. And then the last thing all three women remember is being overwhelmed by a burning sensation over their entire bodies and headaches. And then their eyes just, the intensity of the sensation forcing their eyes shut. And this detail, which is odd, but I think I can make a little more sense of it in a moment. They found themselves being, quote, backed into a pasture entrance in a, quote, crazy manner. So they're moving backwards and they're being pulled into some sort of pasture. And their eyes shut, and there's a fog filling the thing, and that's the last thing they remember.
So I feel like the symptoms of that fog, I'm gonna hear later on that like there's some gas that we know of that makes your body feel that way as it's like dying, like
yeah,
it feels like one of those things where it's like, that sounds really weird, and then you find out it's just like, it's xenon gas or some shit.
Yeah.
But I don't know if there is anything like that here.
I will say that for whatever reason, the mention of the car filling with the haze-like fog is not in every account. Only the more detailed accounts bring up this specific thing.
But they get like dragged backwards by
in their car,
a tractor beam kind of thing.
Yeah,
in all of them,
into a pasture, which is again a detail that I find really interesting. I'll explain a little bit why here in a moment. But so yeah, that's happening, and they forget. Their memory's gone from this point, and then just as suddenly as everything began, it ended, and the women inexplicably found themselves in Houstonville, some 8 miles away from where this incident occurred, and they would kind of drive in mostly silence all the way back to Mary Louise's home. And when they would get there, the clock would read 1:15 a.m. So what was supposed to have been a 45-minute trip from dinner to home in Liberty, Kentucky, it had taken over 2 hours. So there's like an hour and a half-ish of just unknown here.
Mm-hmm.
We
have our missing time.
Yeah, missing time. When the women got home, they actually woke... I find this detail interesting, too. They woke one of Mary Louise's neighbors to explain what had just happened. This is sort of funny to me, and not funny, but it is sort of, you always hear these stories of people who just go home and like either they tell their family or they don't tell anyone.
And the story just ends like for a while.
Yeah. This was weird. I will say, for some context, Mary Louise lives in, I think, a trailer park. So it's not as wild as like going for whatever reason. Maybe this is something wrong with me. For whatever reason, it feels less wild to go to your trailer park neighbor than to just like walk over to a person's house. Does that make any sense? I'm realizing that doesn't really make sense, but also my context for what trailer park living is like like Trailer Park Boys, which is probably unfair to people who actually live in trailer parks. So, I get a sense that there's a little bit more of a what's the word? openness just because of the closeness of living in a space like that. It maybe I could be totally off.
I have no knowledge on the subject.
Yeah,
so
sorry,
I got nothing.
I'm really overstepping, but it just tickles me that it's like I just had the craziest night of my life. I'm waking up my neighbor at 1 a.m. because I don't know what's, and they do interview this neighbor, or they at least get the story confirmed later by this neighbor. There is something to waking up my neighbor at 1 a.m. to say, I have no idea what just happened to me, that makes me think something actually did happen. You know what I mean?
Yeah. There's that feels like a pretty honest reaction.
Yeah. So there, in every single account of this story, all three women are really scared. That constantly comes back up in ways that makes me a little sad. They're all terrified and deeply confused, and so the neighbor suggests that they all kind of collect themselves and draw the object that they had seen. So they do exactly that.
Mm-hmm.
And as they're doing this stuff, they all discover that they have burns on the backs of their necks.
There it is. Okay.
Patches of red skin that they described as looking like a sunburn. And one of the accounts, in all the accounts, they basically say within like 5 days to a week, the burns go away. One of the accounts said that for months, the burns would periodically return and just show up on their necks again.
Interesting. Okay.
The morning following the incident, they all woke up feeling weak, but nonetheless decided to go and inspect the area alongside Highway 78 where shit went down. And this, again, a detail that I just find so strange. So in their hazy memories, as they're getting pulled into the pasture, they recalled a brightly lit stretch of this is as they're trying to remember what happened. They recalled a brightly lit stretch of wide, straight road lined by tall stone walls that are covered in ivy. So they go looking for this stretch of road and these ivy-covered walls. They are never able to find this area from their memories. And I believe that this is what they are describing in some of the stories, where they say that they were backed up into a pasture in a quote-unquote crazy manner. And I was reading this stuff and going like, what the fuck is going on here? And then I found that there is a news spot where they interview Mona. And I don't remember what year this is from, but it's decades after the fact. Because Mona is the only living person left from this story by the time they're interviewing her. And so she's recounting it. And they say something to the effect of the location that they ended up in at the very end was a, quote, unknown farm to all three of the women. So whatever location they ended up at, it was some sort of pasture, some sort of farm. There were these ivy walls or something. And it's a place that, on revisiting the locations that they were in that night, never could find it.
Interesting.
Which is a really creepy thing. I think it's very creepy. So they also had found that spots of paint on Mary Louise's car had bubbled up as if it had been blistered from intense heat. Both the brake lights and the taillights were no longer functional. And all three women in the immediate aftermath say that they were very reluctant to speak to anyone in their family about the incident, let alone the media. I think one of them is divorced, but another one has a husband named Otto, and she doesn't tell him, and they're just not wanting to talk about it. And maybe here's where some of the main character-ness comes in, because by Friday of that week, Mona decided that she had to do something.
Sure.
So first thing she does is she called this sequence is also so absurd to me in a sort of darkly comedic way. She calls the Kentucky State Police. And the Kentucky State Police, which now it's been days since this has gone down, they just straight up say to her, yeah, you should have called and reported the incident basically the night it happened because we can't do anything now. So we're useless, basically.
Sure.
Which is, already shitty to hear from police. Then she calls up the Danville, Kentucky Navy recruiting office. Because she's just trying to get in touch with somebody with some sort of, military authority, because it's such a weird situation. She's just trying to get in touch with somebody who knows something, who has some authority, who can help her. So she calls up Danville Navy recruiting office, getting in touch with Chief Roger Compton. And again, this interaction is sort of hilarious to me. Compton recalls getting her phone call, and it's recounted in one of the articles, and says, quote, "I get calls about all kinds of things. I don't know why, but people figure that I'll know what to do."
That is like, you can kind of see that in a small town where it's like,
yeah,
well, the cops, the sheriff didn't have anything, so
what do we have nearby?
Military thing?
Oh,
okay,
Navy
sure,
recruiting,
yeah,
sure, yeah, yeah. So yeah, unhelpful as this was, Compton was the guy who would end up passing the story along to a Lexington TV station, and then the story unfolds from there. So it starts getting picked up in TV, radio, interviews, and newspapers. Now, some solace eventually came to the women, because at this point they're feeling very alone, and it's the classic thing. They're afraid of being labeled kooks and nut jobs, and they're the only three who experienced this, and they're the only three who can back each other up on this thing. And it's a bit hard to believe, But over the next couple weeks, more and more reports of unidentified lights and objects in the sky came pouring in. So from the Kentucky Advocate, February 1st, 1976, an article titled "Strange Objects Seen in Sky in Lincoln County" by Brenda Edwards. Now, I want to be clear here. I think that the timeline is that this article is one of the first to report on this story.
Okay.
I do believe that that's the case. So here I have, because it includes an account of what happened to these women in there. But it includes these other sightings that have been happening over the past couple weeks. So it says here, "If I hadn't seen it myself, I would not have believed it," is the comment coming from several area persons who reported seeing strange objects in the sky on January 6th and 19th around Stanford and McKinney. And remember, January 6th is when this had all gone down. Declaring it was not an airplane or helicopter, they indicated that it was as big as a house with bright lights which affected their eyes and head. The latest report about an unidentified object in the skies in the Houstonville, that might be a typo, Houstonville area, came from Mrs. Donna Coffey. I'm reading this directly from the newspaper, so shame on them.
Yeah.
In
Cancel
Houstonville,
your subscription.
The latest report about an unidentified object in the skies in the Houstonville area came from Mrs. Donna Coffey, who lives about a mile south of Houstonville. Teresa Campbell, on January 19th, who lives on Brock Lane, Stanford, said she and others also saw an object shaped like a saucer with a terrible noise on January 19th. "It sure put a funny feeling through you," she declared. "It has large lights and is seen about a mile south of town and is moving toward the northern section. It was traveling overhead and then would stop and hover. After a while, it made a turn and you could see a bluish-green light," Miss Campbell stated. Others said it had a spotlight and did not make a noise, she explained. Miss Campbell said the sound was different from a plane and it was very low. "We watched for about an hour, but we did not say much about it because people who did not see it would think we had lost our minds." Miss Campbell says this was definitely not the advertising plane that has been seen over the Danville area. Stanford and state officials reported that there had not been any UFOs reported to their headquarters. One official said he understood that a training course for military planes was in the area of Lincoln County, and this could possibly be what people are viewing, especially on a clear night. Lincoln County Sheriff Bill Norris, however, did say that Johnny Kaufman from the Geneva area said he had seen a strange lighted object Wednesday night in the McKinney area. So they're not alone in seeing weird stuff on that night now. And there's other nights where people are seeing weird stuff too. It's officially part of the news stories.
Okay, so we've got a recurring UFO type sighting in this area for a couple weeks.
Yeah.
around this. Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
So yeah, like I said, in the Kentucky Advocate article, the tale of the three women's UFO encounter is also recounted. And here's where our lovely UFO investigators step in to the story. So, Aerial Phenomena Research Organization, APRO, they've got this field researcher named Bill Terry. He sees this article, forwards it to other staff members at the APRO Bulletin, and from there, the UFO people get involved in the story. I have a really amazing snippet here from an article titled "First Came the UFO, Then Came Everyone Else" by Teresa Morris in the Louisville Times, June 19th, 1976. This part of the story is also, I think, why some details don't get ironed out until later. And it's also really funny. So here's what it says.
Okay.
They're talking about the arrival of UFO investigators on the scene, and it says this. It's no wonder they beat a path to the doors of the three women. The women's drawings of the object they had seen at a distance of maybe 100 feet or so, the object that had somehow appropriated roughly an hour and 35 minutes of their lives, was a classic flying saucer. And the investigators, like the object itself, created somewhat of a stir. Representing several major international UFO groups, they all wanted to investigate the case. This is something that's come up on our show before, of the interfaction fighting between UFO organizations. Always funny to me. It goes on. While their purposes are the same, to collect data on UFO sightings in an attempt to come up with some answers to the UFO mystery, the various groups of UFO enthusiasts and investigators do compete. Naturally, you want to get to the best cases before anyone else does, says Dave Hawk, North American Director of the International UFO Registry, which operates a telephone hotline over which sightings can be reported. In Liberty, two traditionally strong rivals, the Mutual UFO Network, MUFON, and the Aerial Phenomenon Research Organization, APRO, both showed up one weekend. And as one person who asked not to be identified remembers, there was quite a commotion. The result was a compromise. The investigation would be a cooperative effort, coordinated by Leonard Stringfield of MUFON, who I think has come up in other episodes during the 70s, maybe even the 60s.
That name sounds familiar.
Stringfield of MUFON, who says he liked the idea. We've been striving to bring unity among the groups for some time, he said. Stringfield says he could not divulge any details of the findings in the case until the investigation is complete, which may be 3 or 4 months from now, but he did say this is certainly a bona fide case. I believe they're telling the truth, he says. They've helped us a lot, Mrs. Stafford says of the UFO investigators. The three women are hoping to find some personal answers in the results of the study. Meanwhile, they say they're oh geez, sorry, that's like cut off from the actual scan. They're coping as best they can with the changes the incident made in their lives. Mrs. Thomas, for example, says she's just not the same person anymore. So there's this is where I was kind of getting sad, because Mona basically says that in the wake of the incident, she lost her passion for painting and that she has been worn thin emotionally. This is something that we'll get into a little bit, but all three women were amateur painters. Like, they were interested in art. And that's part of what brings them together. So we'll elaborate on that as we get more details from the UFO investigation and stuff. But what I'm trying to establish here is that this is a joint APRO-MUFON thing now. There's an APRO bulletin report on the investigation. There's a MUFON journal report on the investigation. And this is a collaboration that, as far as I can tell, pretty much just served to fuck the investigation up at the end of the day.
Okay.
We'll get more into that later. So Bill Terry from APRO, the field investigator for APRO, he reports back to APRO HQ, and he lets them know that this is, the real deal. And so APRO picks up the phone. They're like, we got another great story that we're going to report on. Let's call up our psychology consultant, Dr. Leo Sprinkle.
Hello.
He's back. He's better than ever. Always love to hear the Sprinkle name in these investigations. So, in the October 1976 APRO Bulletin article on the case, we get extra weird details. For instance, while the UFO was bearing down on them during the incident, Elaine, the one who screamed to stop the car, if you'll remember, she in the middle of the things going down, she's like, "Stop, I want to see it." She recounts in this article that she found the red lights on the craft very beautiful, almost mesmerizing. And I'm reading that and thinking, unearthly in a way. And if you'll recall, this is also what the other lady says. This is what Mona says about the bluish white light from the sort of domed top. They both say the lights are beautiful, and they couldn't really take their eyes off them. Another unsettling thing that just didn't go away. All three women continue to experience a burning, painful sensation over their bodies for days after the incident. But specifically, the detail in this article is that Mona would come down with a fairly severe case of conjunctivitis.
What is that again?
It's like pink eye. It's like an inflammation of the eye in a way.
Gotcha.
So pink eye might be a little bit of a misnomer in this particular case because people get that from poop. But I don't think that right.
Yeah, I think so. That's my understanding.
I guess she could just have come down with pink eye during this time, and it's unrelated to the UFO. But they are including
Havana pink eye.
Yeah. She got Havana pink eye from the UFO, basically. So
just imagining a fucking military weapon that just gives you pink eyes.
I mean, look, is that really that crazy? I remember when we did what was it called? It was an MK Ultra sub project or a related project where they were making the concussion gun. And it was, we were reading, I was reading to you, work that had been done by the great Jeffrey K, Dr. K. Go look him up. And when we shared when we shared that episode online, Jeffrey K responded to it. And
really?
Yeah, and he was like, "Hey, I'm really liking the show, and I'll be checking it out from here on forward. But you're joking about the idea of a diarrhea gun, because that's apparently the joke we made. Is
of course it was. Sure.
The CIA hits you with their diarrhea gun. But he proceeded to send me a thing that I think was about them developing actual chemical cocktails or pills or something that would induce diarrhea in a target.
Sure.
So I was like, oh yeah, okay, of course. They want to make people shit themselves to death. They want to they want to destroy Castro's beard with secret chemicals. What wouldn't they do? It's all
just because we were making the joke doesn't mean that it isn't a real thing.
Yeah.
I've seen Mission Impossible. They send that guy to the bathroom.
So was Mona hit with the Havana pink eye gun? It's an interesting question. It's fun to entertain. I mean, I don't think so, but also I like the idea. The concept is good to me in a weird way.
Yeah.
So yeah, I like sitting around, listening to horrific, hypnotic regression of alien abductions and thinking about I don't know, the kinds of guns that the CIA could use to induce just various diseases and illnesses.
Yeah, bodily ailments.
Yeah. So Mona gets conjunctivitis. And then Louise also goes to wash her hands, and another one of them I think splashes water on their face. They find that when they go to put water on their bodies, it causes the burning sensation to get worse.
Okay.
It's painful to run it underwater. It reminds me of a burn in that way. If you get a bad burn and you put it underwater, it's gonna hurt. But then Louise, she goes and she's going to wash her hands. She takes her watch off, and she notices that when she goes to take the watch off, the hands of the watch are moving at a, quote, accelerated speed.
Okay, I thought they were going to be stopped, but no, they're moving.
They're
faster.
moving faster. Now, this is something that gets followed up on, where one of the articles, they're like, well, we asked her, how long did that go? Like, what happened with that? When did you, at one point you reset it, so when did that happen? And she's just like, look, honestly, I don't remember when any of that happened. I just know that when I went to wash my hands, the watch was being weird.
Okay.
So she forgets. So yeah, and water is exacerbating the pain on their bodies. At one point, one of them is like, we'll dig more into this later, but at one point, one of them is like, oh, I felt dirty after the experience, and I wanted to shower. And showering was also difficult with the burning sensation.
Okay.
Now, probably the set of details that are, I don't know whether they're left out so much as they get elaborated on maybe later, but it kind of feels left out in these more mainstream articles on this case. This occurs before the ladies even encountered the UFO. I find this whole sequence of events very odd. So in the APRO and even MUFON article, the events at the restaurant leading up to the bizarre encounter are played off relatively normally. Basically, these ladies were good friends who wanted to celebrate a birthday. There's a lot of talking about, like, their character's good, they're trustworthy.
Sure.
I found one place where they were elaborating on the restaurant trip in a way that I was like, what is going on? What is happening here? There was a whole shade of weirdness on this part of the story. So, most places will talk about how these were three best friends. I don't think that's totally accurate. So, Mary Louise Smith had only become acquaintances with Mona Stafford a few weeks previously to this event. The day of the birthday restaurant hang, Mona had run into Mary Louise at a gas station. Now, it's not like they're unfriendly. They're just not as close as they get painted in a lot of these articles.
Like long-term besties.
Right. Now the other one, they all have other previously established relationships of years, but these two were friendly acquaintances. So the day of so they run into each other at a gas station. So Mona and Mary Louise. And Mary Louise talks to Mona and is like, I've been working on this sewing project. I'm working on a jacket, and I'm trying to sew a collar onto it. And it's kind of difficult. And Mary Louise asks Mona, could you come over to my house and help me out with the jacket? And Mona obliges. Now, that's, again, relatively normal. And it gets brought up in accounts and, APRO and MUFON and stuff. Now, it's while these two were hanging out at Mary Louise's trailer, sewing and chatting about art, that Elaine pops by and the restaurant birthday dinner plans are hatched. Elaine suggested, she's like, hey, let's go, it's your birthday. That's amazing. Let's go give you a birthday meal. And let's go to Redwood's restaurant specifically, because hanging at Redwood's is a painting there, and I really want to sketch it. The idea is they would have their meal, sit down, and bust out pads that they could then look at the painting and sketch it for themselves and copy it down.
Okay.
Again, relatively normal. None of this seems especially weird, but then we have the account of this day from Otto Billig's Flying Saucers, a Psychohistory book, and it differs in a number of bizarre ways. So, first, it makes it sound like Mary Louise, when she invites Mona over to her trailer, this account makes it sound like she surprised herself by inviting this woman to her house who was at the time basically an acquaintance. The account The account describes it as if she wasn't sure why she was asking this woman over to her home, that it was out of character for her. It's written almost as if mysterious forces were setting the women up like dominoes for their destined date with the UFO.
Okay.
It's an element of high strangeness that doesn't get brought up in other places.
Okay. Because, like, I guess that makes sense that not everyone would pull that, because it's just this weird, like, oh, I was acting kind of out of character, and that's easily dismissible, like, for a lot of reasons, but it is, like, it adds something.
Yes. Well, and also remember, Billig, this guy, this psychiatrist, he is interested in the psychology of this stuff. So he does a lot more exploring of what these people are feeling and thinking than APRO or MUFON do. Because APRO and MUFON want to get the, hard UFO facts. And they want to put it in this cloak of science-ness, So it's a different account, and I think way more interesting, frankly. It's this weird sense of, like, we're being set up to go and have this experience. That's what it feels like. They don't say that, but that's what it feels like. Second, when they actually get to the restaurant together, they eat their meal and then bust out their painting material to try and copy the painting that Elaine said she had liked. This is the part that has me scratching my head. So while they did this, a young man just walks into the restaurant. And this account describes the man as, quote, of dark complexion, had a short beard, and wore an army captain's cap. This man apparently walked straight up to Mona, who, might I add, in many of the accounts comes across sort of like the main character. In fact, in this account, it says something to the effect of, like, this guy walked straight up to her, Mona, who had the most experience and prowess with painting.
Okay.
Apparently, this handsome young man asked Mona if he could sketch a portrait of her. So this guy walks in the restaurant, walks right up to Mona, the most adept painter, and says, "Can I sketch a portrait of you?" Mona, who is also now in a position of acting out of character the way it gets described here, she's normally shy, but she found herself immediately accepting this young man's request. She's like, "Sure, sketch me. Like one of your French girls."
Interesting. Okay.
She describes how he produced the sketch, quote, automatically, and it was a very, very good sketch. Mary Louise watched this guy and would later describe him as unusually quiet and polite. Now, I have mentioned, obviously, we're a little out of sequence with things. This is an account that would be from an interview way later. I'd mentioned how Leo Sprinkle gets roped into this case, which means there will be some hypnotic regression to dredge up memories. And of course, MUFON and APRO are involved trying to get to the bottom of what they're, we've talked about this many times. They're already operating under the assumption that this is a UFO, which means it's probably aliens. So I'm sure you know where this is going. We are going to find out that the entities, that entities of some sort took these three women aboard their craft. That's what happened that night.
Yeah.
Well, in this account of the man in the restaurant, Mary Louise would later recount how that the man seems to have had the, quote, same sort of eyes as their alien captors later that evening.
Oh, sure. He was the fucking alien, yada, yada, yada. Sure, whatever.
Apparently, this man finished his sketch, thanked Mona, and just left. And then I want to read this next part verbatim from the book. She thought it funny that they did not even look to see whether he drove a car, implying that she believed he might have used some mysterious form of transportation. She wondered later whether the quiet young man could have been one of them, and whether he had come to the restaurant disguised as a human being. Yeah?
That's a weird... Okay.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that the question wasn't, why did this guy come into the restaurant, and instead was, why didn't we look to see if he got in a car? It seems kind of like a strange detail.
There's a lot of weird little details like that, yeah. Now, when I read this, I didn't see anybody explicitly saying this take.
Uh-huh.
But here's my take. This is a Men in Black encounter.
Yeah.
First of all, the idea of an entity coming in disguised as a human being, the weird behavior of just immediately walking up to this person who apparently in this account senses who is the best artist at the table, wants their sketch, and just walks out, and is dressed in military garb. It's not uncommon for Men in Black encounters, or at least strange men behaving in ways that are similar to the tropes of the MIB, to be just men in military form.
Yeah.
It feels like a Men in Black thing to me.
Yeah.
Now, getting back to strange details that unfolded during various investigations, and this is one that comes from the Billig book, probably what I found most disturbing. So, in multiple cases, they're saying that these women did not initially think of as aliens or UFOs. Now, for the UFO investigation teams, they're saying this to kind of say they didn't think of it as aliens and UFOs, which lends them credibility because they wouldn't have had the impulse to jump to that. They wouldn't have the impulse to describe the tropes of a UFO encounter because they're not familiar with that stuff. That's what they're saying. In the Billig account where he's interviewing them, the women are not just not convinced or thinking about the incident as being alien in nature, but with the missing time element and how they were feeling, and this goes back to also this feeling of like one of them saying like, I felt dirty and wanted to take a shower. They initially think that they maybe have been sexually assaulted. There is some sort of sexual attack here. This detail gets sort of swallowed up in the story by the unveiling of the presence of alien beings, and the sexual aspect sort of gets mixed into the alien examination trope. You know, I'm laying on a table and the aliens examining me, etc.
Yeah, probed or whatever, sure. Yeah.
The other thing that honestly sent a chill down my spine when I read this, that it's been hard to find details on this specific thing. One account also claims that one of the women, I don't know which, reportedly had an unusual menstrual flow after the incident as well. I do not know what to make of that. Again, this is all wrapped up in the whole sexual element of UFO abductions, too. Like, you can think back to even the this idea that, like, women would have their babies taken from them in UFO abductions or implanted in them and stuff.
Isn't that traditionally a little later in the UFO chronology?
Yeah. Yeah, I would say that's more of an 80s, because we're talking about Bud Hopkins. Bud Hopkins would be one of the big names in promoting that concept, and he's coming also from this evil alien human hybridization angle with it, which is like, you know, they're coming here to abduct our women to, you know, take their eggs and make, you know, hybrids with them and stuff like that. Yep. We've talked at length about, so there is the menstrual flow thing. I don't quite know what to make of, because I actually don't know where it's coming from, because it's mentioned in one article where they're like, details are hazy right now, we don't know details on this or that, and also here's a vague thing about one of the women saying that, who we're not going to name which I get, saying that their menstrual flow was abnormal. Like, and I'm going to show my ass, I don't know enough about menstruation to say, like, could you have been exposed to, like, you want to talk about, you were talking about, like, like the fog and the haze and stuff. Were they exposed to something that would make them feel like they're, you know, dying, like you said? Could they have been exposed to something somehow that did that to them, like with their menstrual cycle? I don't know. I honestly don't know.
Also, like, just a sustained high stress situation.
That's true. That is true.
These things can all impact that, and like,
fair point.
There's a lot of ways that could be a thing. I don't know how it's unusual, but
if I had more details, which I don't even know if I want to know more details, but it is such a weird little point in the story that I'm like, well, you have to tell me more, because if it is in any way, like you said, it could just be a stress thing, but if there's something weird enough there that it's relevant to, like, were they exposed to, secret government chemicals, as we're sort of baselessly speculating, it's a weird detail, and it kind of creeped me out.
With those kinds of things, you always wonder what led whoever has that detail, what led them, what did they think adding that to their account said? What was the purpose of that for the original text? Because it could just be I was writing down what they said, sure, but what did they?
Yep. Anyways. Let's get back to laughing at MUFON and APRO. At one point, APRO's bulletin goes on a side quest to explain why the reporting of this story came late, and I'm just going to read this to you because it's great. So this is from APRO's side of things. Remember, there is a MUFON article. APRO gets the first publication, as far as I could tell. They are publishing in October of the same year that this all went down, but nonetheless are delayed, and they're about to explain why. So here's what it says. Bill Terry met Dr. Sprinkle upon his arrival, and the two proceeded to Mrs. Smith's home. They were met with a conglomeration of investigators from CUFOs and MUFON, who felt that they were first on the case, and that APRO should not be allowed to enter. They had preceded Mr. Terry to the Liberty site by only one day. Sprinkle, being a gentleman and a scholar, did not want to intrude, and it was finally decided to call APRO headquarters for an opinion. Mr. Lorenzen, that's one of the directors at APRO. Mr. Lorenzen talked to Len Stringfield of CUFOs and MUFON, who wanted to use the services of Dr. Sprinkle, but did not want the report to be sent to APRO. Mrs. Lorenzen pointed out that she had written a book, Encounters with UFO Occupants, specifically so that the proceeds would furnish APRO with the wherewithal to conduct such investigations, and that not only was APRO's money, airfare and expenses for Dr. Sprinkle wasted, but Dr. Sprinkle's time away from his family was wasted as well. It was finally decided that Dr. Sprinkle would conduct the hypnotic sessions, but that there would have to be a mutual agreement concerning the release of the story. Also, during meetings before Sprinkle's arrival, some representative of MUFON or CUFOs had told Mrs. Smith, she doesn't recall who, that the ladies should be careful about having anything to do with APRO because, quote, they would call in the National Enquirer, and they would later receive much unwanted publicity. Later, in a letter from Jerry Black, a MUFON investigator and consequently a CUFOs investigator, suggested that the ladies contact the National Enquirer about their experience, which was a surprise considering their reluctance to have anything to do with that paper if APRO was on the case. APRO goes on to say that all of this managed to waste hundreds of their dollars, tons of time, and force them out of completing the case, hence the delay. So they're basically saying, like, here's what we got. We had to actually bow out of the case because MUFON fucked us.
Yeah.
And we were trying to get Dr. Sprinkle in on this, and it fucked up Dr. Sprinkle's whole thing. So
it wasted Dr. Sprinkle's money, not just our money, but Dr. Sprinkle.
This was precious APRO money. This was precious APRO time. And this is also Sprinkle money, okay? And you don't fuck with Sprinkle money.
Yeah.
MUFON tells a bit of a different story. Would you believe it? So
no, I think that APRO is a true source and MUFON are fucking charlatans.
I mean, if you want my actual take, I think they're both being fuckheaded over this. It's really funny. Which is the thing that the initial article points out is, like, they both want the same thing. Like, if you care about the truth of the thing, then the squabbling, like, wouldn't you just work together to get the truth out? But no, it's about who gets the scoop. Yeah. So, according to Stringfield, writing in the MUFON UFO Journal, a big concern in getting Sprinkle involved was funding his lengthy trip to Kentucky from Wyoming, which, again, this is in contention with how Jim and Coral Lorenzen of APRO tell it. So here's what he says in the MUFON Journal. While I was eating dinner on March 5th, 1976, Jerry Black called. Shaken, he said he had just received a call from Mrs. Smith stating that Dr. Leo Sprinkle of APRO had flown to Louisville and was at the home of Bill Terry, ready to depart to Liberty the next morning to perform hypnosis on Mrs. Stafford. Black was disturbed, thinking that I had brought in Dr. Sprinkle without consulting him. Indeed, it took only a second to clear the air. Dr. Sprinkle's plans were news to me. Typical of you, perplexed, Black then called the women to discuss the issues, and all had agreed not to allow Sprinkle and Terry at their homes to conduct the hypnotic tests. According to Mrs. Smith, she and her companions were of the opinion that Dr. Sprinkle was the MUFON or CUFO specialist I had promised to deliver. She knew nothing about Dr. Sprinkle's association with APRO or even APRO itself. Typical of UFO research without discipline, there was a melee of phone calls back and forth from Black in Cincinnati to Liberty in Louisville, and I could sense the utter frustration be experienced by everyone, especially Dr. Sprinkle. He goes on to basically kiss Dr. Sprinkle's ass, talk about what a gentleman and scholar he is and all that.
Yeah.
What's funny is they both... First of all, the MUFON Journal, there's a lot more of the editorializing words like... Jerry Black's shaken, disturbed. Where APRO is just like, here's what happened. Here are the facts. It's very like, they have two styles of being dicks to each other. It's really funny.
The MUFON one starts with the guy going, when I was sitting down to dinner.
Yeah. He's, I was just, very, casually having dinner with, I wasn't trying to, fuck anybody out of an investigation or anything. Can we all just get along, guys? Come on. Unbelievable. Unprofessional from everybody. I'll say it.
Mm-hmm. We all deserve better.
Yes. And this does also all result in the National Enquirer getting in contact with the abductee trio. And because Dr. Sprinkle served on some board that was related to the National Enquirer, then they do rope Dr. Sprinkle back into the case. It's ridiculous. So whether you're Leo Sprinkle, MUFON, APRO, or whoever, it's generally agreed upon that all three women were reliable and, very importantly, not lying on a polygraph test. The investigation would uncover more strange details of physiological and psychological symptoms, as well as the kickoff of the hypnotic regression. And from there, the women could, determine the truth of what happened to them last night. So many more bizarre details in this case, and the truth we will learn in part 2.
Fantastic. I'm glad that hypnotic regression is going to get involved, and we're going to start to learn the truth about what happened here. Because I'm sure there's a lot of stuff that they just didn't remember before Leo Sprinkle went, let's get into what actually happened. Who hurt you?
I mean, I don't want to get ahead of myself here, but I do believe it's in the MUFON Journal's article where they're like, okay, the hypnotic regression sessions begin, and that's when I pulled out my depictions of humanoid beings. And it's like, then it's over. It's all over.
Yeah. Talk about leading the witness. Jesus fucking Christ.
Not to mention that the other thing that I find really weird about this is that these initial hypnosis sessions are conducted with all three women in the room and multiple investigators in the room. And I'm thinking to myself, if I was a hypnotist, and I am, by the way.
Uh-huh. Yeah, amateur.
I'm working on it.
You've been making some good leaps and bounds lately.
I've got a particular patsy, a subject, and a bank I'm looking to rob with my hypnosis abilities. Well, not me. I'm going to make them do it. This is a joking callback to a previous episode of the show. I'm not in trouble. He talks about. We'll get into it, but also all three of the women are in the room while the hypnosis is happening, and I just was sitting there thinking okay, if you're not only going to contaminate it with images of humanoid alien beings, you're also going to put all three hypnosis subjects in the same room as that stuff going down. Yeah. So if you're going to then later say, it was a very consistent story among the three of them, I think you've kind of manufactured that, whether intentional or not. It's now a part of the story because all of them are there experiencing the same thing. And look, I get hypnosis has some, suggestibility and you're going to get people to, maybe say some shit under that, but you have contaminated the ground so thoroughly.
Even just the fact that Leo Sprinkle, the guy conducting these sessions, was brought in by UFO organizations, taints the research.
Yeah. I mean, look, Bud Hopkins is another perfect example of how his presence turns a UFO case into a story of alien-human hybridization.
Yep.
Because that's his thing, and that's where he tends to lead people. Anyway, I'm really getting ahead of myself. There will be more of that to come in part 2. Anyways, such an interesting story. Like, I get frustrated reading those kinds of details, but it is still nonetheless very interesting. Very interesting stuff. So, all that being said, Niall, are you ready for a big question?
Oh, I'm always ready.
Now, I will admit, this is one where I instantly had an answer in my mind before I even wrote the question down. So if you want me to just jump in with it, I can do it. But
okay.
The question is, let's say it's my birthday.
Okay, yeah.
And let's say you, me, and Garrett are going out for Din Din together.
Uh-huh.
And we'll be abducted by aliens later that evening. What would be the ideal pre-abduction restaurant experience with us for you?
Okay, I'm honestly, so it's your birthday. I think I honestly I already have one, but if you want to go first, feel free.
Well, I was going to say because we're in big question fantasy world. Mm-hmm. I'm going with, we used to have a place near where we lived called Perkins. It was a late night.
Of course, you want to go
spot.
back to fucking Perkins.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
I want to go to
Kyle's
Perkins.
favorite restaurant in the fucking world.
I want a big breakfast platter with a muffin. That's what I'm looking for. This is This is a place with immaculate vibes. The only good American export, late night diners. And it would be open super late, and me and my friends would go and play Magic the Gathering there, and we'd be the only people there, and the waitress would come over and ask us about, what's lightning bolt do? And we would eat muffins and eggs and shit. It fucking ruled. So, I'm just saying.
That is such a fucking Midwest suburb story.
Yeah,
God damn.
Yeah,
Holy
it is.
shit.
So, I'm just saying.
If anyone wants to know what, like, living in a place with nothing open past, like, 10 other than diners.
Walmart and diners.
Yeah. And that is what it is. It is you're playing, you're finding an excuse to play a thing at a restaurant in public at like 2
1 a.m. to 2 a.m.
Denny's is a commonplace for this thing, but Perkins will do just fine.
And I gotta tell you, if you have a group of friends who like card games or board games, some casual game that isn't too many pieces, it is really nice to just go to a restaurant where there's nobody else, order like a burger and play a game. I'm just saying.
Tip well if you do this.
Yeah, and tip well. No, look, we're not dicks. We were.
No, I know. I'm saying this to the other people. I know you did.
We were good tippers, and we had camaraderie with the wait staff who were seeing to us at 2 a.m. So it was all chill. And that's where I'm taking you, mainly because I miss those big ass muffins.
Yeah, you loved going there and getting a because your favorite the thing that sold Perkins so hard to you and that group of people was that you could get like the equivalent of like a breakfast, like Grand Slam combo breakfast type thing.
Yeah,
and that would come with a
muffin. It was awesome. So sorry.
And like, don't get me wrong, Perkins was good. I like Perkins just fine, but to me, it's very similar to going to a Denny's. I didn't get the beyond that level.
Look, it's better than Denny's. To be clear, I think the place is better than Denny's, but it is Denny's-like. And I would also say that the vibes are immaculate when it's you and your buddies at 2 a.m., but if a man wearing a human suit came in and asked to sketch me, the vibes would shift. I'll say that much. So, and then we get abducted later. I mean, it's just a weird time. What about you?
A strange night. So this comes from the fact that when you first were talking about how far away the restaurant was in the story, I was like, that was about how far away Greenwood is from Columbus. So I started thinking about going to dinner back when I was a child and my friends. So we're going to go to the classic staple of driving into Greenwood from Columbus, Indiana, and I'm going to get you the Pope room at the Buca di Beppo.
Thanks.
Yeah, because What's better? Because
Thank
I know
you.
you're a big chicken parmesan fan.
Yeah,
So we can go there and get you
especially
some,
from Buca de Beppo.
yeah, get you like a 4-pound fucking tray of
Please.
chicken parmesan in the Pope room at Buca de Beppo.
Yo,
I think
forgot
that
they
would
had a
really,
Pope room.
yeah. Where in the middle of the table is a Lazy Susan, I believe, with a Pope hat on it in a
God.
case.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
That speaking of Midwestern staples, Buca de Beppo is the shitty Italian Midwestern, or it was. I think, aren't they like dying? Is Buca de Beppo like extinct?
I think they're still around. I think like they probably had some restaurants close at some point. But...
I appreciate you taking me out for shitty Italian food before we get abducted, because I do love a chicken parmesan. I've often said that chicken parmesan is the perfect food.
And like I could take you to an actual like decent chain like Johnny Carino's,
Yeah.
or I could go for the
What's,
obvious and go for Olive Garden.
Carrabba's.
Carrabba's a little higher, a higher dollar
Mm-hmm.
point. I'm not sure I'm quite there with you.
Oh, okay.
But we'll go take you to Buca de Beppo and get you a feeds 4 size.
Oh my God, that's
tray
awesome.
of fucking chicken parmesan.
I'm in. You're just describing what I want to do next time we can get everybody together. You know, I actually have. I can remember the first time I went to Buca de Beppo, and it's fucked. I think I can't remember if I've told this story on the show. You know the story though. You might not remember it.
Yeah.
I was with my family, and my sister, my parents, and we were young. My sister. I want to say I was maybe 8 or 9. My sister's 2 years younger than me. She was young when this happened. But we went to we used to do this thing where we would drive from Indiana all the way to Cleveland, Ohio, because we had family there. So it's like a 5.5, 6 hour trip. Typically, these trips would be like, the way it would line up is we would end up getting dinner on the way. And sometimes, you had to be expedient. A classic that we would return to regularly, and to this day I have a nostalgic love for, is Frisch's Big Boy.
Sure. Sure.
But I remember one time we went to Buca de Beppo. And my parents, I remember coming away really hating it. And I wasn't like enthused, but also I was young enough and didn't care enough that I was just probably happy to have a shitty chicken parm.
Yeah. Before, young enough that you don't have taste yet.
Yes. Now, what happens is we eat. We're gonna leave. We're checking out. My parents are paying the bill. And we walk outside with my sister, and she immediately, as soon as we step outside of Buca de Beppo, immediately just barfs. Just barfs in front of Buca de Beppo.
Yeah.
And
Not the only time that would happen at that Buca de Beppo, I'm sure.
For sure. And I think that my dad, when he got in the car, he was laughing, and he said, "That's a pretty good review of Buca de Beppo." And that was the last time we ever went there.
There's something about chain restaurants that people go to knowing that they're not going to have a good time.
Yeah.
That is like, it's such... does that exist in other countries?
I don't...
Like, is that an American thing where it's just like, I'm going to go to fucking... I'm going to go... I mean, like, Taco Bell, shut the fuck up. But like, I'm going to go to the Ground Round.
Yeah.
And... have like
grindstone
a meal
Charlies.
that makes me that makes me feel like awful.
Yeah. It was an experience, and the thing is, it was like relatively quick and cheap to do that back in the day. Now it's long and expensive to do that. So I think even in the United States, that's a thing that's dying. I think people like, okay, this is a little embarrassing. I used to go to Applebee's with my friends.
Oh yeah,
because they would have cheap appetizers and like cheap
they had
drinks.
Like late night. Yeah, they had like both like early afternoon and also like after like 10 p.m. You had like very cheap same with like TGI Fridays.
It was very cheap to go and eat shitty food and get tipsy.
Yeah.
I think it's probably now prohibitively expensive to do that shit at places like Applebee's because the places are all just expensive and still shitty.
Millennials are killing the fast casual dining industry.
Well, yeah, it's all the avocado toast we're eating. Yeah. To be fair.
So, it's definitely not that it's gotten way more expensive.
No, it has
shitty.
Has nothing to do with the crumbling of the American empire.
Applebee's is literally the restaurant where I first learned that like a lot of chains just had like microwaves back there. You can
Applebee's
sort of taste
was
where
it.
I first learned it. Yeah,
usually when I microwave something at home, I'm like, I eat it and I go, wow, I don't even notice that this was microwaved. In Applebee's, you're like, I can taste the microwave flavor.
Yeah.
So
Chef Mike really put some seasoning on this thing.
Mike Rowave is his name.
Yep.
Yeah, America sucks. Anyways, you wanna do some business and wrap this one up?
That's a good note to end this one on. If you want to find this podcast, if you want to listen to more episodes or find part 2 when that drops, go to your podcatcher wherever you listen to podcasts. Look up It Gets Weird, and we're gonna be there.
I guarantee you that we're there wherever you look us up. Yeah, no,
we're on the dark web, fucking
probably.
Podcast hosts.
We're probably. I don't know what those are, but yeah, probably. We are on Blue Sky at It Gets Weird. Give us a follow there. That's the only social media I'm keeping up with these days because I'm frankly not looking at social media as much because it's horrible. Twitch.tv/It Gets Weird. Give us a follow there. We're still looking to finish up that final bit of the Fire Red Nuzlocke run. Life has just gotten in the way, for which I apologize, but it will happen eventually. Email us, itgetsweirdpodcast@gmail.com. We love hearing from you, the listener. So hit us up with a story, a comment, whatever. Hey, you can butter us up. You can say, I love your show. You can knock us down and say, your show fucking sucks. Either one is acceptable. We'll take them all. Email us, itgetsweirdpodcast@gmail.com. Just let us know how we should address you, and we might read your email out on the show. That would be great. It would be a nice change of pace from all the people, because we do very regularly get emails of people being like, have this person I represent on your show who's he works for Jonathan Bitcoin, and he has a book coming out, and he knows all about the lizards that control the Jewish media, and we're like, Jesus, just stay away from us. So please, it would be a nice change of pace. But if you want to support us, and I know you do, patreon.com/itgetsweird. It's the best place to do that. We have a $1 tier, a $2 tier, and a $5 tier. The $1 tier is the tip jar. You're saying, hey, thanks for doing what you do. Here's $1. But if you want bonus content, it's just $1 more. $2 a month. That gets you It Gets Weird TV and our new show, Comic Break, where Niall and I talk about comics. It Gets Weird TV. Niall and I talk about weird television. We're having a blast. People get to vote on the television show that we watch. We just wrapped season 3 of The X-Files, so you have at least 3 seasons of The X-Files at the $2 tier to go back and listen to, plus many other shows. But then if you want the most bang for your buck, there's the $5 tier. You get It Gets Weird TV and all the bonus $2 shows, plus World of Weird in the off weeks, where Niall and I talk about whatever the hell we want to talk about. Sometimes it's stuff that doesn't make it on in the main show. A lot of the times it's Niall and I talking, music, comics, art, movies, stuff like that. Stuff we're into. So check it out. It's kind of like an hour-long, diversion that we would have on the main show, like talking about sodas and restaurants and stuff.
Yep.
But it's a lot of fun. So please check out patreon.com/itgetsweird. Whether you donate to the $2 tier or the $5 tier, you get access to the main show 2 days early on Friday instead of Sunday. And you get access to the Discord where we're hanging out with our listeners. People are having discussions about all kinds of shit in there. Sometimes stuff that's like frankly over my head. I'm going to be real. There's a lot of interesting discourse happening among our listeners.
We have some smart listeners.
It's true. We very really cool, interesting stuff coming from our listeners. So it's worthwhile just for the knowledge that some of the folks in there have. So please, patreon.com/itgetsweird. Check it out. Please support us. We really appreciate it. It's what keeps us alive. It's all on you. To keep we exist to this day because of your support. So thank you very much. We really appreciate all of you who have supported us over the years. But we also know times are tough, money's tight. Sometimes you can't support us. We get it. It's okay. No worries. We love you too. But the least you could do is tell your friends and tell your enemies and tell your congressman all about It Gets Weird podcast.
All right. Thank you all for listening. Thank you for continuing to support the show in whatever ways you do. This has been It Gets Weird, and I've been Niall.
And I'm Kyle, signing out.